Okay, so this is a breakdown of a role between Steve and Chels. Steve's one of our brown belts. Been training with us for quite a few years. Let's pretty much jump straight into it. So Steve's a little bit bigger than Chels. He's actually probably, I would say, probably about 10, 15 kilos heavier and a lot taller. He's a super long dude, particularly his shin bones. They're like really long. And Chelsea just immediately pulls into close guard. We get this question a lot: how do we do it? And all Chelsea's doing is just sitting underneath. She's trying to get deep underneath, and then she brings up that other leg, both feet to the hips, so he can't move around too much, and then just locks the close guard. Okay, Steve immediately into good posture here, and then straight away stands up, which is awesome. Does a great job. Chelsea switching to that underhook to the sleeve grip here. She's been working a lot of like omoplatas and stuff like that, but Steve's doing a great job of keeping posture. And there you see Steve tries to break Chelsea's guard, so she immediately addresses it by like stripping that grip off and then pulling herself back in to get nice and tight. And then she's just trying to break him down using the collar. Can't do that, so pulls him forwards again. It's a really nice little move. What she does, she's going to open up her guard. She realizes she can't like pull him forwards from that position, so she's going to open up her guard, use her feet against the side. This is like old school. Haleta used to do this, a really famous sweep. And what it does is it forces Steve's weight forwards, then she lifts up her hip, recloses the guard, and can restart the attack again. Okay, but again, Steve straight up standing, really great job. This time Chelsea almost had the sleeve but didn't quite get it, so ended up dropping inside and then kind of into a modified X guard. Here, a little bit of use of the frames, so you can see that as she drops inside, I think she's trying to underhook the sleeve. Steve does a good job of defending, and she can't get on the knee bar because he's too tight. So she goes back towards a single leg X. Here, she's kind of in an X guard position, but she's too much off to the side, and she only has that shin as a way to block. She recognizes that, goes forearm across the neck to block, then uses the butterfly hook to just frame and elevate, and then steps into the lasso. We actually originally recorded this for Chelsea for an instructional she's doing about controlling bigger people and stopping herself getting smushed. So she's a little bit she's kind of working through some of those things where she's not necessarily being as dynamic as possible. So Steve does a good job of passing there. He's really insistent on stepping over this leg. Chelsea's trying to play the collar and sleeve. Goes to push him away and can't, and is forced to switch back to this lasso, and then grabs that far sleeve again. Steve bails, and then Chelsea goes back into the spider guard. So some really nice transitions, then back to the De La Riva guard again. And now she's going to do that kind of a very similar sort of move again. She's trying to elevate him over the top, but can't quite do it. And then just a basic kid sweep, switching back to the De La Riva. Didn't come up on top. Again, the aforementioned reason, she was working like building frames, retaining frames, and showing what happens if someone's like trying to pressure through you. But really the kid sweep's very difficult from him. Here she gets a little bit lazy, and Steve does a good job. This is like an old school, really old school, and really, I talked about Steve not being that much bigger than Chelsea. He's in this role, he's playing a very big man style of jiu-jitsu, like a lot of the things that big guys would do. And then this is one of the things that you'll see them do a lot. They'll get to close guard and they'll start passing the wrist underneath your back. The way that Chelsea deals with it is actually really nice. So Steve's trying to go to a Sao Paulo press. He's trying to frame that. And now he's basically, Steve has this one arm free now to like really push and work against Chelsea's legs, and Chelsea's arm in this position isn't really that strong. Even if she jumps up to something like triangles or whatever, she's not necessarily in a great position to finish it. Okay, so Steve's put her in a tricky position. What Chelsea's going to do, you can't really see from this angle, but she actually uses her other hand to strip that grip on her wrist to free it up. You can see she's working it there. So she's maintaining that guard, she frees up the grip, and then goes back into playing this game again. Steve immediately stepping around the side. And again, this is like a big man smash style pass. Chelsea's pretty flexible. You can see he's putting a lot of pressure down. She's forced to open up her guard. There, she's trying to use the off balancing, but can't. And because of this grip that Steve has, he's putting on a really strong position here. Chelsea doesn't have, we always talk about having like feet on our partner for guard retention, but she doesn't have that presently. Okay, all she's got is like, honestly, this is an awful grip to have on someone, like trying to lift them up with the gi, but it's all she's really got, and she's trying to work this shin inside. And Steve's doing a good job of framing against it. And now she recognizes that that's going to be a really big problem. Like, she can't get that knee inside. She can't, use that to create separation. And if she stays there, Steve's going to be able to knee slide over the top. So she goes back to the half guard to lock Steve down a little bit. And then what she's going to do is try to work this frame free. But again, Steve's staying super tight and super heavy on this. So it's a position that she has to be very, very patient in. Steve is in a great, great position. I cannot emphasize that enough. And here, she's able, like, Steve gets a little bit over committed to that knee slide, and she's able to rebuild her base and then just bundle Steve over the top. So I honestly, I can't emphasize how deep this guard pass is. Like, Steve is in a great, great position. The only thing that's really saving Chels now is Steve is quite high up above her. So he's not able to kind of like stretch her out really effectively. She's got this space underneath him that she can kind of move. So when Steve tries to turn the hips, like, Steve's kind of getting out here, he's doing a good job. As he creates that space, Chelsea's kind of able, her hips are completely free because of that, and she can get up to her knees, she can build up to her knees. And then from there, she limp arms over the head to get rid of that. And then Steve tries to push back into her, which isn't necessarily a bad thing to do, to try and keep her flat. But then he stops, and she's able to drive him over the top, and ends up on top in the half guard, and then in a Kimura position. And if you look at this in relation to where Steve was, you can see that Steve's head is this side of Chelsea's body. It's not underneath her. So she's down in that, like, kind of squidgy bits by the ribs. Whereas if you look back here at Steve, it's the complete opposite. Steve's head's above hers, Chelsea's underneath. There's nothing really in this squidgy bit of Chelsea's. So now Chelsea's using a really nice little hip turn here. And she's using that lapel very effectively, and what she's going to try to do is, like, back step up over the top. And you can see the way she does it. It's really nice. Again, what people often do is they throw this leg up super high towards the ceiling, and she doesn't do that. What she's going to do is, you get a pretty good view of it actually. She blocks the shin, so, like, neutralizes the butterfly hook first, and then to clear it, she's going to lift it up, and it's going to come very tight. So she's going to drop the knee down and flick the foot over. There's the knee drop. And then the foot's going to flick over, immediately goes behind her, and then she can start stretching Steve out, and then kind of smashing him, and then goes into that strong side control position. So this is really good, good control. Chelsea's gone up to the knee on belly. She's playing quite a light style of side control. There's not a lot of space for Steve to work, but she's not really committing a lot of pressure like that. There, Steve tries to bridge out, almost gives up the back. Chelsea now using the lapels a little bit, driving that knee on belly, and this is just kind of exposing the arms here. She sits into the armbar and gets the submission. I mean, it's just a very simple turn of the corner. It's nothing particularly fancy that she's doing. I think that's pretty much the end of the round, in all honesty. There's only a couple of seconds left. Steve this time sits down, Chelsea drops into the double unders, using that knee to drive through over the top here, and then forces the half guard again. So again, this is actually quite a good kind of teaching point that Chelsea's doing here, not necessarily for Steve. So Steve's trying to set up the lapels, like using the lapel to attack. Chelsea drops into the double unders, which pretty much neutralizes any lapel guard that you have available. There's not a lot of options from there. And then she's going to bring this knee up over the top and drive it forwards. And you can see neither of Steve's feet are on Chelsea at the moment, only his arms. So she's pressuring forwards with her chest, so the arms are occupied. And now, she's got tiny midget legs. What's going to happen as Steve tries to close up the half guard, she's going to flick it through here. Steve's arms are still occupied, so she gets in a really deep position. She's able to fit. Let's see if I can get a good shot of it. Like, as she forces through here, because Steve's arms have to be occupied with the upper body, she's going to be able to fit into the squidgy bit gap again. And you see she drops down, controls, and then round expires. So this is like this is a really good example of, like, controlling the distance from Chelsea. She transitioned through a lot of different guards when she was playing guard. Started in that very strong close guard. And then, went through the spider guard, went through to the half guard, rebuilt her base, rebuilt her frames from those positions. So it's a really, really good example of how you control the distance with someone and working through those different levels all those different layers, and you're forcing your partner to go through each layer. And like I said before, she was demonstrating that a little bit for this instructional that she's creating, but so there was lesser kind of attacks that she was doing from there. But Steve did a good job himself of like putting a lot of pressure in and really putting Chelsea in some tricky spots, like that arm underneath the back. That's something that you may well have encountered yourself and been stuck there. Putting him in the deep half guard as well, and forcing him not be able to get the knee shield. These are really important things, and Steve did an awesome job. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that, and I'll do another one of these again soon.